I heard you. I know you said my name. The words came out shaking, but the whispers didn't stop. They crawled along the walls of the dark hospital room, twisting around me like invisible ropes. My chest tightened, every breath heavy as if the air itself wanted me gone. Then one whisper pulled free from the rest. Oh, clear. Close. Daniel? My blood ran cold. My flashlight flickered 3 times, then went black, throwing the dead room into a pit of darkness. I reached for the door, except the door wasn't there anymore. Where it should have been was only a wall, solid and cold. The voices rose, crying, hissing, begging. The floor vibrated beneath my shoes, and from behind me, just inches from my ear, came the same whisper again. Daniel, we've been waiting. Something icy clamped down on my shoulder. A week before that night, I would have laughed if anyone told me I'd end up in the dead room. You're scared already, aren't you? Jake smirked at me as he kicked a stone down the street. I'm not scared, I muttered, though my sweaty palms told another story. You better not be, Sarah added, hugging her hoodie tight. Because once we go in, there's no turning back. Everyone says that. Jake's grin widened. That's why we're doing it. Nobody else has the guts. He was talking about Hollow Creek Hospital, the old building at the edge of town where even birds didn't land. Everyone knew the stories. Patients who never left, nurses who locked them in the final ward, the whispers of voices trapped inside. The dead room. I didn't want to go. But with Jake being my older brother and Sarah refusing to back down, I didn't want to be the coward. So on Friday night, we pedaled our bikes out of town, the moon barely showing behind thick clouds. The hospital rose like a shadow against the sky, tall and broken. Its windows looked like empty eyes. The metal gate sagged open, rusted and useless. We hid our bikes in the weeds and crept forward. My stomach twisted the closer we got. Last chance to chicken out, Jake teased. I rolled my eyes, though my voice cracked when I said, lead the way. The hospital door was already off its hinges. We stepped inside and the smell hit instantly, rot, dust and something sour like old blood. Our flashlights cut across hallways lined with broken beds, peeling walls and scattered wheelchairs. Every sound echoed. The snap of a stick, the crunch of glass, even our breathing came back to us like whispers from far away. This is insane, Sarah whispered. Jake just laughed. Wait until we reach the dead room. That's where the real fun starts. We climbed stairs that groaned under our weight, past rooms filled with shadows that looked almost human. By the time we reached the 3rd floor, my legs felt heavy. And then I saw it. The door. Its paint was faded and chipped, but the words were still scratched into the wood. Isolation ward. The dead room, Jake whispered, his eyes shining. My skin prickled as I reached for the knob. It was colder than ice. Too cold for a building with no power. Sarah's voice trembled. We don't have to do this. But Jake was already pushing the door. It groaned open, echoing down the hall like a warning. Inside was worse than I imagined. Rusted beds lined the walls, broken glass scattered across the floor, and one chair sat in the center, facing the corner. The air felt heavy, pressing against my lungs. Jake pulled out his phone, setting it on the chair with the flashlight shining at us. We're going to record everything. Proof the whispers are real. We stood in silence. Waiting. Listening. Nothing. Just the creak of the building. This is stupid, I muttered. Then faint soft. A whisper. Sarah's eyes widened. Did you hear that? Another whisper. Louder. Jake's grin disappeared. He grabbed his phone, his voice shaky. It's real. It's actually real. The whispers multiplied, voices piling on top of each other. The air grew colder and my breath turned white. And then one voice cut through all the rest. Clear. Direct. Said my name. Daniel? The chair scraped across the floor by itself, shrieking against the tiles. Our flashlights flickered wildly. Sarah screamed. Jake dropped his phone. And the door slammed shut behind us. We were trapped. The bang of the door shook the walls. Sarah let out a scream that echoed so loud it sounded like the building itself screamed back. Jake ran to the door, yanking the handle so hard his knuckles went white. It's locked, he shouted. No, it's not locked. Sarah cried. It's gone. I pressed against the wall, flashlight trembling in my grip. She wasn't lying, the doorframe was there, but where the door had been was now just wall. Smooth, solid, like the exit had never existed. That's impossible, Jake's voice cracked. He pounded his fists against it. Dust shook loose, but nothing opened. The whispers swirled around us now, louder than ever. Hundreds of voices, all speaking over each other, all racing through the air like a storm. The sound made my head ache. Some of them were crying. Some were screaming. And some were laughing. Sarah grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. We shouldn't be here, Daniel. We need to get out. I wanted to tell her we would. I wanted to sound strong. But when I opened my mouth, all I could say was, they know my name. And then it happened again. Daniel, the whisper hissed right by my ear. I spun, shining my light into the corner. Empty. Jake snatched up his phone, fumbling with the screen. I got it all recorded, he stammered. His face was pale. Once we get out, we'll show everyone. If we get out, Sarah snapped. Hurry. We stumbled into the hall, gasping like we'd just escaped drowning. But something was wrong. The hallway wasn't right. The walls were too close, tighter than any hallway should have been. The ceiling drooped low. And the smell, sharp like rotting meat, hit us so hard Sarah gagged. Where are we? I whispered. Jake shook his head. Doesn't matter. Just keep going. We hurried forward, our flashlights jittering across the walls. That's when I noticed something scratched into the paint. Dozens of lines, carved deep, running the length of the hall. At first I thought they were random, but then I realized they were words. Help US. Let US out. Don't listen to them. Sarah's voice trembled. This isn't real. This can't be real. The whispers started again. Not far this time. Right behind us. We spun around. The chair from the dead room was there. Sitting in the middle of the hallway. Sarah screamed, dropping her flashlight. The beam rolled across the floor, landing on the chair. Someone was in it again. Not a shadow this time. A woman. Thin. Pale. Her hospital gown was stained dark, her face hollow, her eyes empty sockets. She lifted her head slowly, jerking like her neck was broken. Her mouth opened wide, too wide. The scream that came out was not human. The scream hit like a blade. It tore through the hallway, vibrating in my bones, making my teeth ache. Sarah collapsed to the floor with her hands over her ears. Jake shouted something, but his words vanished in the roar. My flashlight flickered as if the sound itself drained its power. The woman in the chair leaned forward, her mouth stretching impossibly wide. Black smoke poured out, snaking across the tiles toward us. It moved fast, too fast. Run! Jake yelled, yanking me up by my arm. We bolted down the hallway, Sarah stumbling behind us. The smoke chased close, curling along the walls like living shadows. Every step we took, the corridor seemed to grow narrower, squeezing us like a throat swallowing its prey. There! I shouted, pointing at a door up ahead. It was metal, dented, with a faded red exit sign hanging crooked above it. Jake didn't think twice. He rammed his shoulder against it, and the door burst open. We stumbled into another room, slamming it shut behind us. For a moment, silence. I bent over, sucking in sharp breaths. Sarah was crying, clutching her chest. Jake leaned against the wall, pale as chalk. Then the whisper started again. Not outside the door. Inside the room with us. Daniel? The sound slithered into my ear like a worm. I spun in a circle, flashlight darting across the room. It looked like a storage ward, rusted cabinets, overturned stretchers, broken four-poles littering the floor. But what made my stomach twist wasn't the mess. It was the writing. Every wall was covered. Thousands of words scratched deep into the paint. Names. Dates. Phrases. I moved closer, my light catching on a line carved darker than the rest. Read. We died here. Now you will too. Sarah whimpered. I want to go home. Jake swallowed hard, forcing bravado back into his voice. We just need to find stairs, okay? Stairs and then we're out. But the whispers grew louder. The cabinets rattled. One tipped over and crashed to the floor, spilling rusted instruments. And then, slowly, every stretcher in the room began to roll toward us. Sarah shrieked. Jake cursed, kicking one away, but it only slid back toward him, faster this time. The sound of metal scraping against the floor filled the room, drowning out the whispers. Climb! I yelled, pointing at the cabinets stacked against the far wall. We scrambled up, perching on the highest shelf as the stretchers rammed into the cabinets, banging and screeching like they wanted to shake us down. That's when I heard it. Not a whisper. A laugh. Oh, cruel. Close. Do you think climbing will save you? The voice hissed. I froze. My light flicked across the room, empty. Nothing but stretchers grinding against the wall. And then, hands. Cold, gray hands, dozens of them, shot out from under the stretchers, reaching up, grabbing at our shoes. Sarah screamed. Jake kicked wildly. I clung to the cabinet, heart slamming against my ribs. The laughter grew louder. And from the darkness beneath the stretchers, something began to crawl out. It wasn't a shadow. It wasn't smoke. It was a body. Twisted. Broken. Its head hung sideways, bones poking through its pale skin. Its jaw clicked as it dragged itself forward, eyes like black holes. More hands clawed out behind it, pulling it closer, faster. The whispers all joined in one final chant, voices rising in a horrible harmony. Stay with us. Stay forever. The crawling thing reached for my leg. Its fingers brushed my ankle. The cabinet shook. Sarah slipped, her scream piercing the air. I lunged to grab her hand, and the shelf beneath us gave way. We fell into the arms of the dead. The crash of the shelf was deafening. My flashlight flew from my hand and rolled across the floor, the beam spinning wildly. I landed hard, the air punching out of my lungs. My ears rang, my body aching, but there was no time to breathe. Cold hands closed around me instantly. Dozens of them. Fingers like frozen wires clutching at my clothes, dragging, pulling me toward the black mouths that gaped below the stretchers. Get off me! Jake shouted, thrashing, his voice breaking with fear. He kicked and punched, but more hands caught his arms, his legs, his neck. Sarah's scream cut through the chaos, desperate and shrill, as she fought against the same unseen force. I clawed at the floor, fingernails breaking, leaving scratches in the dust as they tried to drag me down. My heart thundered in my ears. For one terrible moment I thought this was it, we'd be swallowed whole by the dead room just like everyone whispered. Then the whispers changed. They weren't begging anymore. They weren't chanting. They were arguing. Dozens of voices rising and clashing, some shouting, "Take them," while others hissed, "Not yet." The noise grew so sharp it hurt. The hands loosened just slightly. It was enough. Move! I screamed. I rolled. The hospital loomed in the night, but now it was silent. No voices. No screams. Just the creak of broken windows in the wind. Sarah collapsed on the grass, crying into her hands. Jake dropped the metal pole and sank to his knees, blood dripping down his arm. I stared at the building, my chest heaving, my heart refusing to calm. We'd escaped. Or so I thought. Because as I bent to pick up Jake's fallen phone, the screen lit up in my hand. It had been recording the entire time. I scrolled, shaking, through the footage. Our voices, our screams, the whispers, they were all there. But the last video made my stomach twist. It wasn't of us running out. It wasn't of the door. It was a close-up. Of my face. I was standing in the dead room, my eyes black, my mouth twisted into a smile I didn't remember making. And then my recorded self whispered, clear as day, "Daniel, you'll be back." The phone slipped from my hands, clattering to the ground. Behind us, deep inside the hospital, the whispers started again. And this time, they were laughing.